Welcome to Podkey Daily News, with the essential developments shaping markets, technology, trade, and public life. A trade fight is widening across North America as $40 trillion in U.S. debt pushes up the cost of almost everything built on borrowed money. Meanwhile, the moon needs its own clock, and a personalized cancer vaccine has delivered a major clinical breakthrough. The U.S. has imposed 50% tariffs on nearly $20 billion of Canadian imports after trade talks collapsed, reaching from building materials and alcohol to hockey sticks and agricultural equipment. The immediate exposure covers about 5% of Canadian exports to the U.S., while roughly 80% still enters tariff-free. The risk reaches further through investment decisions, jobs, and tightly integrated supply chains, especially autos. Canada is preparing retaliatory duties aimed at U.S. steel, dairy, farmers, and farm equipment. Similar brinkmanship has been reversed before, so watch for renewed negotiations. The political atmosphere is worse this time, with repeated U.S. rhetoric about Canada becoming a 51st state deepening mistrust. U.S. national debt has reached $40 trillion, roughly double its level less than a decade ago. Interest payments now consume about 1/5 of federal tax revenue, and debt is projected to grow faster than the economy over the next decade. Higher oil prices and debt concerns have driven bond yields toward multi-year highs, weighing on equities, particularly chip makers and companies financing AI and data center construction. 9 major tech companies hold about $3 trillion in off-balance sheet AI commitments and are relying more heavily on debt. Higher rates raise the hurdle for every data center project and intensify the competition for capital. Washington remains divided over the response. Republicans emphasize spending cuts. Democrats emphasize investment and tax-based growth. And some economists say taxes and spending both need to change. Recent policy choices are projected to cut revenue by about $4.5 trillion, while reducing spending by roughly $1 trillion, adding to deficits. Watch long-term yields because they are becoming a central constraint on AI spending and broader market valuations. Moderna and Merck reported late-stage success for a personalized mRNA vaccine designed to prevent recurrence and spread in high-risk melanoma patients. It is the first successful late-stage result for a personalized mRNA cancer therapy. Markets treated the result as a major validation of mRNA beyond COVID. Moderna shares rose about 177% in one day. Merck reached record highs, and healthcare led the S&P 500 for the week. The next question is how this translates into approvals, wider use, and further trials across other cancers. The result has revived investor interest in individualized mRNA oncology after a difficult post-pandemic period for the platform. Lunar activity is forcing a technical question with operational consequences. What time is it on the moon? Time runs slightly faster there because lunar gravity is weaker, and tiny timing differences can become navigation errors during precision landings. Missions currently use a mix of Earth time, elapsed mission time, and differing lunar references. A spacecraft firing an engine at the wrong moment could magnify a small timing mismatch into a catastrophic error. International discussions are considering a lunar standard referenced either to the moon's center or its surface, with a decision expected later this year. The framework could also shape future timekeeping on Mars. Commercial trials on the Northern Sea route are testing a faster passage between Asia and Europe. A South Korean vessel has made the transit from Busan, and China and Russia are experimenting with trial or scheduled services. The route is largely accessible for around 3 summer months as Arctic ice declines, offering an alternative to passages through the Red Sea and Strait of Hormuz. Its economic appeal comes with steep environmental exposure. More traffic can contribute to ice loss, while fuel spills or accidents in the remote Arctic would be exceptionally hard to contain. Watch whether seasonal trials develop into regular commercial service and whether safeguards keep pace. Stars and Stripes, the partly Defense Department-funded outlet long regarded as editorially independent, has seen its editor-in-chief and publisher removed or fired amid Pentagon concerns about content and discipline. The Pentagon says coverage must be consistent with good order and military discipline. That standard sits in direct tension with the newsroom's historic role of holding military leadership and government accountable to service members. The Pentagon declined comment on the firings. The key issue ahead is whether the outlet retains meaningful editorial independence and whether service members continue receiving reporting that can scrutinize their institution. Researchers are finding drug residues, including cocaine, caffeine, painkillers, antibiotics, antidepressants, and opioids, in waterways and marine life. Caribbean sharks have tested positive for several compounds, while Atlantic salmon have shown behavioral effects. Wastewater systems were largely built without the ability to remove these complex pharmaceutical mixtures. Better filtration is the long-term technical fix, while medication disposal awareness campaigns can reduce pollution sooner. In a separate medical development, surgeons are testing Atlantic cod skin as a temporary covering for severe burns before grafting. Reported cases showed hospital discharge after an average of 25 days, compared with 37 days for synthetic treatments, and sepsis risk was cut in half. Larger studies will determine how broadly that promising result holds. That's the standing brief from Podkey Daily News. Watch trade negotiations, bond yields, and the next clinical and regulatory milestones in personalized cancer care. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.